we're going to go through and put the fiberglass spars in the bottom of the fuselage. You're going to need hot glue and goop for this application. The first thing you want to do is in the very front of the curvature of the actual fuselage, you're going to want to put about a very light bead, about an inch, inch and a quarter long or so. And the trick is you're going to want to push this spar down into that bead, and you can see my hand in the way it's being pushed. And once that is down into that bead, take your finger and burn it with the hot glue. And just wipe the hot glue off, and then hold this spar in here like this until it dries. And we're basically putting it down in the front of this so we can start wrapping this fuselage, and that's the only way you're going to get to be able to hold this down. Once it's a little bit tacked up, you can take a modeling pin while it's drying and put it in there just to hold it for now. And then you can come across and do the other spar here, same thing. Get it down and encapsulate a little bit of that hot glue. Wipe it off. Ouch. And let it be. And you can see, now we'll be able to wrap the contour of the rest of the fuselage back here once they're like that. So, now I can come back and, I'd say about midpoint, about where the
hump is.
The hump is for the skid. Same thing. Come back and push that down, get it to encapsulate itself a little bit in the hot glue, and wipe it off. And the same thing with that one. Once it's a little bit dry, a little bit cool, go ahead and pin it down for the rest of the time with hobby T-pin. Hobby T-pins are really useful to have around here. Same with that one. What we're going to do at the end here is we're going to run a bead of goop over the top of all of this stuff. Now, what we're going to do is just in front of the actual curvature of the curve here, about halfway into the curve, we'll go ahead and add a little hot glue in there. So you can manipulate it and get about half the curve done. Press it down. Again, wipe the excess glue off and hold it in place. Have your hobby pins handy. Pin it in a few places so it doesn't wander on you.
Yeah.
Same with the other side. You can do one at a time. You don't have to do them both at a time, but I've been kind of working the process. When you do both at a time, one nice thing is it doesn't allow the fuse to distort because you're kind of working the fuselage equal pressures on both sides. So wipe it off, pin it down. And the reason you're wiping some of it off is because we're gonna goop over it, and I want the goop to still kind of encapsulate the spar. So come down past that last needle and go ahead and work a little bit of glue back in it. Maybe come down an inch or two past the curve, and again, wipe it off and get it out of the way. Hold it for a second. On this build, we use a lot of hot glue to hold things in place while other glues dry. And hot glue is kind of a tool. You don't want to do the whole thing in hot glue because you want a good part of the spar to be wrapped in the goop. And then come back and trim this to the right length so it's there and ready to go. And then in the middle, add one little quick dab in the middle, push it down, wipe it off. And right before it curves, just a little dab, maybe 10, 12 millimeters long, 3/8 of an inch, something like that, and hold that in place. Okay, and then manipulate it a little bit, get past the curve, and go ahead and glue the whole curve all the way back to the tail. You might need to let it cool off just a little bit before you touch it. It's a little bit temperamental. Hot glue it into a few places. Pin it in a few places. There you go. And that's basically how you're going to glue that spar in, and then work the other spar the same way. I'm going to pull these pins off here, and we'll start at the front end. We'll pull the pins off here in a second, and we'll run a bead of goop across. Okay, we've put the spars in with hot glue. We got the contours for the bottom of the spars, turning right, all locked in with hot glue. So now you take a decent sized tube of goop that you have left over, and I basically push it straight down and flat right onto the spar. I use the goop as the actual goop tip as the actual spreader. And remember, a lot of this goes away because 80% of this is solvent. So I'm trying to cover this to where the goop is getting around the fiberglass spar and down into the channel. And I leave a little extra in the front. I always put a little extra in the back. It'll shrink down and suck itself right down into that spar slot after a bit. We'll start on the other one.